Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Off-Farm Income Podcast. Hey, thank you so much for joining us here on our YouTube channel for episode number 932. Well, today we've got a great Friday edition episode for you. I'm going to be speaking with Kevin Pontel, the owner, the founder of Farmerboy Customs in Wisconsin, talking all about restoring old tractors for folks and bringing these tractors back to life. They do it all, everything from engine rebuilds and all the mechanical to the painting and making them shine. And man, he's got a great story about how he got there, and he's got a really, really exciting business to profile. He was a real pleasure to interview, and I'm excited to introduce him to you. We're going to get that started for you right now. Kevin, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
Hey, it is my pleasure. I have been looking forward to this interview for a while. I'm glad to finally get to speak with you and introduce you and what you do to everybody. So let's do this. Can we start off? Can I just ask you a few questions about you?
Sure.
Okay. So where are you located? Where are you at right now?
We are in southern Wisconsin, in a town, Whitewater. It's about halfway between Milwaukee and Madison.
Okay. Is there actual Whitewater there?
No.
All right. Well, I'm sure. Well,
We made our own little rapids in the creek that we have on the farm. So
okay. All right. Very good. And so you own Farmerboy Customs, and then do you also farm as well?
we do not farm. My friend actually rents the land, but we have in our family, my dad and grandma own about a 220 acre farm.
Oh, they do. Okay. Because I was thinking, as you and I have been corresponding to set this up, at some point you wanted to do it after harvest or something like that. Am I right about that? You said you were really busy, or is it all just in the shop?
Well, it's in the shop, but I also have been working with a part-time job at a research farm.
Oh, okay.
So I'm the one that's in charge of doing all of the combining with the test block combine.
Okay.
So that's what I was talking about for that.
Gotcha. Who's the research for?
It is for a bunch of companies.
Okay.
Different seed companies, chemical companies.
Okay. Ah, cool. Well, I host a show for Pioneer as well. Is why I'm asking that, because we just
Yep, we have done one for them, several actually, but
okay.
yep.
Yeah, very cool. Well, that's great. Well, that's wonderful, and I want to find out. So, what about you and your? Let's talk about your life outside of Farmboy Customs a little bit. So, what's life look like for you? What do you like to do for fun? All that type of stuff.
Well, I'm married, have two kids and one stepkid. Um, I guess as far as doing stuff outside of work, I do some stuff with toy tractors and toy trucks, kind of a spin-off, I guess.
Oh
Maybe
yeah, I'll
that's what
say.
got
Like,
I do very little hunting, but would like to. I tend to take some of the winters and do a little snowmobiling and ice fishing,
okay.
and I'm into old cars.
This is sounding very stereotypically Wisconsin-y to me.
Probably.
Well, especially the ice fishing part, right? I mean, that's clearly Wisconsin and Minnesota.
Yes, definitely.
All right.
I
Well,
like to have an old fashioned too. Yeah.
what's that?
I like to have an old fashioned once in a while, you know.
Oh, nice. You and Don Draper.
Very Wisconsin.
All right. Well, let's talk about Farmboy Customs really quick. So, tell us about this business and what it is that you do.
Well, Farmerboy Customs is a tractor repair and restoration shop.
Okay.
We will do anything from mechanical stuff to complete restorations of older tractors. We don't get into too much of the newer stuff. Sometimes there's some simple things that people want done, and they come most of the time neighbors, I guess. They end up bringing their stuff over. But most of the work that we do is all from the 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. We do pretty much anything from that simple mechanical stuff to complete restorations and paint work.
Okay. And when did you start this?
I started this 2012, I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, 2012.
Okay. And how did that happen? So what happened where you went, okay, I'm going to start doing this. I'm going to start my own business doing this with older tractors?
Well, I'll give you the long story.
I'll take it.
So I actually worked on our farm for a while and was running our farm and farming. And I had my own semi.
Okay.
And that was right out of high school in 97. And I went to renew my CDL in 2001. And they said, you're not supposed to be driving truck because I have a bad left eye.
Okay.
So there was no way to really file for a waiver or do anything. It was just going to take forever. So I ended up renting the land that I was farming to my friend and sold the truck and started looking for something different. So after that, I actually got a job as a correctional officer in the Department of Corrections in Wisconsin and worked there for about 9 years or so.
Okay.
And went through a divorce. And after that, I moved back to the farm. And I kind of said, you know what? I enjoy painting. I had painted, I don't know, I'd say a handful of tractors. So I said, I enjoy doing that. I'm fairly good at it for not actually going to school for it.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the timing was right to jump off and give it a go and see what happened.
Okay. And so, well, first of all, let me say thank you for your service as a correctional officer. I was 15 years as a police officer, so I like to tell people thanks.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's good for you doing that. I think everybody should serve in one capacity or another. And that, man, I'll tell you what, I don't mean to get off topic, but when I was a detective and I'd have to go into the prisons to interview people, and those doors shut behind me, I did not like that. I was not cut out to be behind those closed doors. And
yeah, it definitely was interesting. I have lots of fun stories, and the last 2 years I was actually at the prison farm.
uh-huh.
I probably should have stayed there, hindsight, just because, I mean, who wants to, who can farm and make state salary and do all that stuff?
Yeah, no kidding. There's a prison outside of Tracy, California, where I first began my career called Dual Vocational Institute. We call it DVI, and I had to go to a parole hearing there one morning after a night shift. And I was brand new cop. I was a rookie. I didn't know anything. I'd been up all night. I was super tired, and so I got off work. I just drove over there in uniform, and I drove into a restricted area. I had no idea what I was doing. Drove into a restricted area, got out, was walking up to the front gate to be checked in, and there was an inmate trustee who started yelling at me that I couldn't have a gun where I was at. So I was like illegally carrying a gun in a restricted area on the prison. And so that was my first lesson. So I had to drive back out to the first tower, and they actually lowered this is California, the most advanced state in the country, blah, blah, blah. They lowered a bucket from the tower, and I put my pistol in the bucket, and they pulled it up in the tower, and then I went back into the prison.
Nice.
Yeah, I did not like that. I did not like that at all. But, yeah, anyway, enough of the shop talk there. Okay, so very cool. So you did that. You went through the divorce. You came home, and you decided to give it a go. How did you figure out that there was a demand for this? I mean, it's one thing to say, I want to do this. It's another thing to go, will people actually pay me to do this?
Yeah, I basically was looking. I've always been around the older tractors. Growing up on a farm, we had older equipment. My dad had a few older tractors that he had someone paint. I don't know, back when I was in high school. And so we've been around the collector world, I guess, if you want to say. And I kind of was thinking, there's a lot of these older guys and younger guys, but a lot of the older guys that, maybe don't live on the farm anymore, but they still have their older tractor and they fix it up or want it fixed up and they're doing it in their garage. But then when it comes time to actually paint it, then they say, oh, okay, I can't do this next to my Cadillac. I can't do this next to, my house. So where am I going to do it? So I kind of thought, well, that's what I like to do more of anyways, is the actual painting part. I kind of thought there was a demand for it based on that. I had a friend that owns a body shop, and I worked for him, just helping him out a little bit. And he kind of talked to me a little bit and thought, yeah, I think you're right. That's definitely an area that most people don't have.
Okay. All right. And so then when it came time to start, did you have a shop that you could do this in? Did you have to rent property? I mean, what'd you do?
Well, we had several buildings at the farm, and we had an old shop that had a wood stove in it for heat, and it wasn't insulated. And I said, okay, well, this is my shop.
Okay.
So actually that's where it started.
Okay.
It was basically, yep, we don't really need it. My dad actually lives next to the original home farm. And he had a insulated shop, but he had a dump truck at the time. And so, I couldn't use that shop for painting or doing any of that because he had it filled full of his stuff. And so we just decided, okay, that's what you can do. And if this works, then we'll talk about stuff down the road.
Okay. All right. And so that was back, 2012. So 8 years ago, when it was, we'll see how this goes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you decide to do this. And now that you've decided to do this, you've kind of gotten over that hurdle. You've got the shop, you've got the space. Now you've got to go and you've got to get, I guess, did you have the equipment you needed already, or did you have to go purchase equipment?
I had to purchase most of the equipment, all the mechanical tools, I guess, besides some of the specialty stuff we had. I had collected, obviously, all the different tools that way from the years of farming and doing stuff. I did have to go buy some painting equipment. I had some of it because I had painted a few things here and there, but some of the newer stuff that I wanted, I had to go buy. And then it slowly became, okay, I can't do this in this shop with a wood stove. I always joked about it's interesting that I've never, gotten into trouble because I have a wood stove in the corner and I'm over here spraying paint.
Yeah.
But you got to start somewhere.
Gotcha. So with that equipment you needed to buy, did you have that money in reserve? Did you have to go out and borrow money? How did you fund that to get started?
Well, at first, it was either use credit cards. I think my parents helped me out a little bit in the beginning, and then just do a job and use that money basically right back into the business.
Okay. So now we figured out how you got your equipment. How did you get your first customer?
That's a good one. I think it was just word of mouth. I think I had painted a few tractors I painted one for the neighbor. We grew up together and his dad had a stroke. And so his family had me repaint one of their tractors. And then I painted one of ours. And I think the neighbor came over and wanted me to paint one of theirs.
Mm-hmm.
And it pretty much has all been word of mouth.
Okay. So the reputation has grown, and obviously, if the word of mouth is working, there is a demand for it. So that worked out, and so you got going. And then over the last 8 years, how has this transformed? Like, do you remember how many tractors you did in that very first year?
I don't.
Okay.
That's a good question. I don't remember that. Um, I remembered at some point in time, I decided I needed a shop because it, seemed to be progressing enough where I thought there's no way that I can keep going in this little shop and
Mm-hmm.
trying to do one project at a time when you have to wait on so many different things sometimes for some of these projects.
Uh-huh.
So being that it was my grandma's farm, I kind of talked to her and I said, well, it seems to be working. I think there's a demand for it. I'm getting calls. I'm getting, all these people that want me to do stuff, but I can't really do it where I'm at in that.
Okay.
And it was her land. I mean, I own nothing of it. So I kind of said, well, I'm at your mercy. And so I kind of drew up some plans and got some different proposals for a shop. And she actually told me no the first time.
Okay.
She said, we have plenty of buildings around here. Pick one. And I said, well, I can't. So I talked to my dad, and we actually took an old shed that was just a 3-sided shed. And my dad said, just do this. Just make this your shop.
Okay.
So then I talked to her and I said, well, hey, it's going to cost just as much and blah, blah, blah. And so she actually said, no, I think that's fine because you're utilizing a building here instead of building a new one. And so then I actually started redoing that and basically added on and made a 60 by 50 shop.
Okay. All right. Now, how has the business progressed since then? Are you significantly busier 8 years later than you were when you first started out?
Yes. It's definitely, I think from the start, I decided that a website was the most needed thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what I picked anyways. And it seemed like after that website, and then I think it was Facebook, it was just people finding out from that internet searches basically, and now Facebook, that more and more people kept calling, and slowly I added different things to the shop, and business has picked up, I think, consistently.
Okay. Yeah, the Facebook page is great, and obviously you can display photos of your work. So I would assume that's got to be a super popular spot.
Yeah, it seems like that's the biggest thing is pictures to people. Um, being a painter and looking at pictures is funny because I have the total opposite opinion that most people do. They look at a picture and go, "Oh, okay, this looks really nice," and I always go, "I wonder what it looks like in person."
Uh-huh.
But it's true. People want to see all the pictures and look at that kind of stuff, and
Sure.
it's definitely helped.
Absolutely. Now, are you doing strictly painting and body work, or are you now on the mechanical side of things as well?
We do everything. Trying to remember if it was 2 years or 3 years now, my dad decided to retire from his dump truck, and he started working part-time / full-time for me.
Okay.
He used to be ag mechanic, for a New Holland dealer I think he was there for 7 years before he got his dump truck. So he's had experience doing mechanical stuff, and I just could hardly keep up with anything. And it was a good fit. It's a good fit because he does the mechanical stuff. He doesn't want to touch anything that's shiny if he doesn't have to.
Okay.
And he leaves that part up to me. So.
Okay. And so how far away will you take tractors from? Do you have people bringing them from out of state to you?
Yes. I will take tractors from anywhere. Trying to think. I have one that's going to Texas that I'm working on now. That's the farthest that one has gone, but it actually came from about 20 miles from me. It was his family's farm here, and then he moved to Texas. And through word of mouth, through a neighbor from his farm up here, they said, "Oh, you got to have this guy work on there to look at it." And so that's how I ended up getting that job.
Okay, very cool. So I'm curious. I've got this question that is sitting here in my brain, and I want to know if you've got a favorite color to paint tractors. And I know that's a loaded question because the color is going to indicate the make. And so do you have a favorite make of tractor?
I do. It's green.
It's green. I wondered. Okay. So it's green.
It's really funny. It's been my neighbor who's been around the whole time, helps me out from time to time. He always laughed because I didn't for, I don't know, maybe the first 4 or 5 years, I didn't touch a single green one.
Huh.
So I always laughed because I said, well, they don't need anything. So that's why nobody brings them here.
But then it finally happened one day.
Yes.
Okay. And now what about size? Do you, I guess, do you have a size limitation on what you can work on?
Well, I do. That's kind of another sort of funny story. My friend wanted me to do one of his tractors, a cab tractor, and realized we couldn't fit it in the shed. And then we thought, of course, this is after building the shed, that on the 18 feet seemed ridiculous to add it on, 16 foot because it's a 12-foot sidewall. It seemed ridiculous. Why would you want to add, 18 feet only that high? But it would have let, those taller tractors come in there.
Mm-hmm.
But so far, it's worked out because all the pieces I've just taken off and,
okay,
put them in the shop anyways. So
gotcha.
I've done a couple semis, and I just had to remove the stacks and, take some of the parts off. And
okay. Oh, semis as well. Well, that's interesting.
Yeah. Through some friends, you find out, okay, well, hey, you're a painter. We like how you paint. So would you do my semi hood? Would you do this?
Mm-hmm.
Would you do that?
Huh, that's great. Very cool. Now, the bulk of the tractors you're doing this to, are they going and being put on display? Are people keeping them in their shops and then like putting them in different shows and parades and things like that? Or are any going back into the field and actually doing the work?
There's been a few that go back to the field. They're the newer ones. Some shops don't do anything but restorations. They want to stick to that, just the show quality restoration work. And I tend to do both. There's a need. I found a need anyways for, again, mainly some of the local guys that find out you're painting. But I find out there's a need that, magnums are a good one that fade, and then they just want them red again.
Okay.
And so, they're not looking for a show quality tractor, but it's hard to say, okay, well, I'm not going to do it just because it's not show quality.
Gotcha.
I think that there's still a very reasonable way that you can paint something in it, and it looks just as good as factory new or better. And then it makes everybody happy, and you're still making a little money. And
yeah.
But then the other ones are actually pretty much family heirlooms.
Okay.
I would say that 90% of them are that. I've picked up tractors from suburbs of Chicago. I've returned them back to suburbs, and they jump on them and do a little circle around the block. I mean, it's strange. I would have never thought it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's all those people you're talking about who grew up on a farm, and they're not doing that anymore, but they miss it.
Yeah. The one guy, he basically learned, it was his grandpa's tractor. He learned on that tractor how to drive a tractor. He was an architect. He just wanted it back. So when they had an auction, he ended up buying it, and he messed around with it for a little bit, and then figured out, you know what, I'm never going to get it finished. So he called me and wanted me to pick it up and finish it for him. And but most everybody, there's some farmers that, you know, have that same story, that their grandpa or whatever bought that tractor and they hung on to it for all that time.
Yeah. Have you ever had one that a tree's grown up through?
Not yet.
I know that sounds like a crazy question, but I've seen multiple pictures of old tractors that people are going to restore someday that've been sitting out there, and a tree has grown up through it somehow, and they got to cut this tree out of it. So I figured I'd ask.
Yeah. Yes, I've got one that probably was close to that. You know, he might have cut the tree out before I got it. I don't know, but it was definitely sitting outside in the weather for years. There was lots of stuff that was froze up and stuck, and it was very time consuming.
Have you ever had one show up where you looked at it and you went, like, I don't know if I'm up to the challenge on this sucker?
No, I haven't had that yet.
Well, that's good.
I haven't had that yet. No.
All right. Well, let me ask you a little bit about the business side of things. So you talked about when you were talking with your grandmother about the new shop, and you said, hey, this looks like it's going to work. What was the event or the indication that you received where you went, okay, this is actually going to work. This business is going to be all right?
I think it was just a leap, to be honest. I did talk to several different people, and I think part of it is I outweighed some of the risks by saying, okay, if we're going to, you know, put up a shop, you know, if I'm going to spend all this money to put up a shop or do this or do that, what am I going to be able to do with it if for some reason this doesn't actually work? And, you know, we had plenty of uses for it. It's not like I was, I guess, spending a ton of money on something that, you know, as soon as the business didn't work. I talked to a couple people, older gentleman that had a John Deere dealership, actually, tractor dealership near me, and talked to him about it and kind of picked his brain on some of the things.
Okay. Now, I noticed that you formed an LLC. So what was it that led you to, to get, I guess, more formal than being a sole proprietor with this business?
I talked to a couple different people, an attorney that I knew, an accountant, and some other people that own businesses. And it just seemed like the right way to go, for different legal reasons. And it just seemed like it would be a better way to protect yourself, I guess.
Yeah. So the liability aspect of it, specifically.
Right.
Yeah, that's interesting. And do you have more staff than you and your father?
No, it's just my dad and I. It's always a thought that crosses my mind, and I'm just not sure if I want to take that leap yet, I guess.
Sure. Now, that's a big leap. You got workman's comp. You got all sorts of stuff that comes in when you do that, right?
Yeah, and it's always, I guess the way I always look at it is it's all of a sudden then you're feeding somebody else. So then, it makes you a little more cautious. Like, I'm not going to just hire somebody and they go, oh, guess it's not working.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, your responsibility goes up for sure. Now, when you decided to do this, did you write up a business plan? Or was it kind of all in your head already and you just had to implement it? Or did you actually write something out formal?
I did write up a formal business plan. I wouldn't say that it was all that great. I didn't think that I had that great of skills as far as the paperwork and the planning part of it, because I think a lot of it was in my head. I talked to University of Wisconsin-Whitewater as a great business program. And the older guy that I said that had the dealership at one point in time near me, he got me in touch with their business director, actually. And through them, we worked on a lot of different stuff because I felt like I was at my shop. I had my shop up, but there was a bunch of things, a paint booth, some other things that I needed. And, I didn't know where to go or what to do. I didn't have somebody that was knocking on my door saying, here's some money I want to invest. And it seemed like the people I talked to were like, I don't know, a tractor restoration business. I don't know about this. So I actually worked with them quite a bit, and we formulated a lot of business plan and different goals and things like that, and came up with a proposal and went to some banks, and then I was able to get some operating money and stuff like that.
Okay, man, going to banks, that's getting pretty serious. Did you have a hard time kind of taking some of those risks, or did you find yourself to be kind of a natural born entrepreneur where that type of stuff doesn't bother you?
It doesn't really bother me. I think it was a little bit hard, but it seemed like it was easy to sell yourself.
Okay.
Because it was something that I believed in. And it seemed like it was something it was something that I was passionate about. But then when I went to the first bank, they said, nope. Then I was like, oh, wait a minute. Maybe this is a little bit harder than I thought.
Okay. Gotcha. Now, is there a time of year with this business where you find yourself busier than others? Like right now, I would be thinking maybe people want these things done for Christmas or something like that, but I don't know. Is there any particular busy time of year?
There really isn't, except for, I think, your call volume. I seem to get more calls in the spring of the year, and I think it's because the weather's nice, and then people get thinking about tractor shows and doing stuff outside. Because most of these guys they are using them. It's not like they're just putting them in a shed and forgetting about them.
Right.
So they're giving hay rides or doing stuff like that. And then it seems like about this time of year, or maybe a month ago, then you get the opposite where it's winter, and they're thinking, okay, well, I'd really like this fixed for next summer, and then they're calling and trying to get in for the winter so that you can hopefully have it done by spring.
Gotcha. Okay. So it's you and your dad. You're in the shop. You're doing the business. And so how many projects can you take a year?
That's a good question. It varies so much because some of the projects take so long compared to others. I'm trying to think right now what we have, because now he's actually uses his shop for a lot of the mechanical stuff, and I use my shop for a lot of the paint work. So pretty much we have both shops full. And I think we've got 7 projects in the works at the moment in various stages. That's give or take.
Okay. So 7 projects in the works right now. Interesting stuff. Okay, so if there's somebody else out there, they're down in Florida, they're in California, wherever, some other part of the country, and they're listening to this and they're going, man, this sounds great. I would love to do this. My interests are aligned with Kevin. I'm going to start this business for myself. What's a mistake that maybe you made that you could tell them about that they could avoid? And if that doesn't jump to mind, any piece of advice you'd give to somebody who's going to go out and start this would be fine.
Insurance is a good thing. A lot of people that I've heard of starting or doing something like this, they want to, maybe they don't want to do it full time, but they start it part time and they're working out of another shop like I did or whatever. That's somebody else. And I think that's one of the key things that I don't think I thought about it as seriously as, until I got my newer shop and then started thinking about this, that, and the other thing. And, then you start thinking about the amount of money that goes into some of these tractors and it's, and I think costs. Cash flow is huge. Some of these restorations take months. So you have to develop a system that works for you. I'm actually pretty good friends with a couple different people that restore stuff, and it's not all the same. It's different for each individual, I guess. What works.
Okay. Well, thank you for that advice. This has been really fascinating. Like I said, I was looking forward to talking to you. You've got a really unique business that I've never profiled on the show. If there's people out there listening, if they would want to contact you, they want to see your work, how would you want them to go about doing that?
You can go to my website at farmerboycustoms.com or Facebook. You can message either way. That's about the easiest. You probably figured that out too, trying to contact back and forth it's just so busy. And then either my phone's not in my pocket because I'm painting or doing stuff and it's just sitting on the bench, and my shop, the farm, doesn't have very good internet. So sometimes you get messages, sometimes you don't. I don't have a secretary, so I don't have someone that can write down all those different people that call me and do all that stuff.
All right. Well, hey, I really appreciate it. I know you're very busy, and I know you had to run up to the house to be able to get the internet connection to do this. So thank you very much for doing that and for coming on the show today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on the show.
Well, thank you for being here, everybody, and thank you to Kevin Pontel for coming on and sharing that great story with us today. And hey, as always, enjoy your journey to the ultimate lifestyle business, agriculture.